This is the Triple Play Fantasy Basketball Pod. I'm your host, Coach James Lewis, here to break down college basketball, get you geared up, talk about some of the top tier teams, top tier programs, top tier players in the nation. And today we're talking Gonzaga Basketball, a team that fell one game short of a perfect season, cutting down the nets, some turnover, some big recruits coming in. There's kind of a lot to unpack here. For a team that's went from underdog to all eyes on me. And for them now, they're landing top 5 overall recruits to the number 1 player in the nation. So Coach Kevin Coleman is my coach's corner buddy from California. And we're here to break down Gonzaga Bulldog basketball. So I want you to start with a little bit of what they did last year. We'll talk about some people that have left, people that are coming in. Later on, we'll talk about our predictions for the 2021-22 season.
Yeah, man. As always, I love coming on here just talking college basketball. And Gonzaga's been that program. Like me and Coach are about the same age. Like they as Mark Few's done a good job of getting them there, but they don't ever have that dude that gets them over the hump. And then last year, they went 31-1. Obviously, they were fantastic. They were undefeated going into the national title game, 15-0 in the WCC, which isn't really a conference. Let's all be honest out there. And so they won that. They look great, but I think one of the things that you and me talked about, and I mentioned to you, I thought Baylor was going to destroy them because of toughness and physicality. And I think Gonzaga really does struggle with that. And that's something that we've seen in the past, whether it's teams with Morrison and all these other guys that we've seen. I think that they have struggled with physicality and being able to bring it over the top. And I don't know what this team is going to look like this year. We'll talk about it. But last year, obviously, they were historic up until the point where they ran into a team that was just so much more physical than them. And then that's where they got their ass kicked in the national title game. And even UCLA, really, right? Like UCLA probably, when we watched that Final Four game, Suggs hit the game winner, but there was other areas there that you just saw that, hey, they could have easily lost that game too. So you see that physicality problem, but hey, you can't, 31-1 is nothing to sneeze at. Now this year, I could only find, obviously, I just showed their non-conference schedule for 2021, and like we talked about with the Duke preview that we did, they played Duke. That's a big game, November 23rd. November 26th. They play UCLA in a rematch November 23rd. And I like that Texas game. That's going to be a good game. November 13th against Chris Beard. And, Beard has just been getting all kinds of transfers out there in Texas. And like he always does, he builds that team up. I think that's a game, to be honest, is really going to show us something. Obviously, Alabama as well and Texas Tech. Like, I think those games are legitimate games on their schedule. After that, I don't see anything there. Are there any games that stand out to you that you're excited to watch?
All the ones that you mentioned, the Texas matchup with the front court, two of the best front courts in the nation. You look at that. You look at the rematch with UCLA, and UCLA is returning basically their entire team, and they bringing in Peyton Watson, a top 10 recruit.
Yeah,
and then you go to Duke, and of course it's going to be the battle of the number 1 recruit in the nation and the number 2, and the number 1 recruit in the nation is none other than Chet Holmgren. Mr. I can shake Steph Curry out his boots. I can pull up from 3. I can block 5 blocks a game. I can win 4 state titles in high school. Gold in the U19 Worlds, MVP of that. I mean, he basically has every accolade that you can imagine as far as an amateur career, and he's ready. He is my number 1 overall prospect. I have him ranked to go number 1 overall. And he's going to be filling in some shoes. One of his former high school and AAU teammate in Jalen Suggs. So talking about some players that are returning, Drew Timme, who is an All-American and has potential to be a player of the year, led the team in scoring at 18 a game. Anton Watson has a chance to start. He'll be battling out with Julian Strawther, who should get a lot more time this year. Dominic Harris is hurt. You have Andrew Nebhart coming back, and he has a chance to start in the guard position. I love his versatility. I think that he can play the 1, he can play the 2, and he can give you some instant scoring. Plus, he's just a polished guard overall. But let's talk about some of the guys the shoes that they have to fill. Jalen Suggs, to me, already, I think that he could be the best player on the Orlando Magic, and he's just sensational in the summer league. He was sensational the whole ride through last year, and when it mattered and when the game was on the line, they put the ball in his hands, and he made the right plays. And we talked about the game winner against UCLA. Yeah, it was a little bit of a miracle shot, but I mean, he had the kahunas and he shot it and he made it, and he advanced to the title game with that shot. His defense is a huge lull for me as far as what they are going to be missing this year from the perimeter. So yes, he was the engine that could offensively as being a playmaking point guard in transition and in the pick and roll. But defensively, he was one of the best perimeter defenders, and I think you'll see that in the NBA. He's giving you 14 a game, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, shot just really good percentages, and he just represented leadership. He seemed poised beyond his years. To me, I've been on record saying I thought he's like the coolest guy out of the draft, the guy that I want to hang out with the most. Moving on to Corey Kispert, probably the best shooter in college basketball last year, or at least, top 3, top 4, 5. He was almost a 50, 40, 90 guy. He was the conference player of the year in the WCC. He was a 4-year senior and got better each and every season, drafted by the Washington Wizards. Joel Ayayi, who got picked up by the Lakers. He had another year on his record, and when you don't have a guarantee to get drafted, I always say to come back, but he was ready to move on, and these are some shoes to fill. What do you think about the losses, and does Gonzaga have a chance to bounce back from this?
So the biggest thing for me was Kispert. I like Kispert a lot. Like, he's a legit shooter, and he really spaced the floor for them really well. I think he did struggle on defense where he got kind of exposed in that title game. But he is nothing to sneeze at, especially as a player. I think he actually went to a pretty good spot. I think that he can fill the role there with your Wizards. Unfortunately, he went to the Wizards though. But hey, yeah, Jalen Suggs. Hey, he's legitimate. Like, and he played well. He kind of led that team that you saw last year. I really like that. So the biggest thing to me, my biggest question mark is, okay, what is that backcourt going to look like, and how do they fill it, right? So how does that kind of go through, and how do they do a good job of, like, maybe plugging holes, and can Mark Few be that guy that plugs holes there? Because I liked Aaron Cook. We didn't really mention him too much. I thought that was okay. I mean, I really feel like they've lost some guys there. What is the recruiting class look like, Coach? Besides Chet, who did they bring in?
All right, so I liked Aaron Cook too, as I think he was like the 4th guard that they got in off the man. He got a little bit more bump when it came tournament time, and he was a little bit of a bigger guard. He wanted a bigger opportunity, so we'll see what he does at Georgia. Chet Holmgren, number 1 player overall, who has got some guard skills himself. I think that in the NBA, his potential to be a 3 or 4.
Hold on. Can we? I just want to tell everybody out here, I don't have the same opinion of our guy Chet that my co-host does here. I like Chet, but his frame's got to get a little bit bigger. Okay,
that's
frame.
True.
So I will just say this, is that his frame's got to get a little bigger. And I don't know if his body type really is going to be able to do that, right? Like 7'1" to 190 that's a skinny dude. So I do like him. I like his perspective there. But I will say with Chet, I want to see, obviously, his field goal percentage looks good. His 3-point percentage, his 3-point skills are going to translate very well, like to the NBA. That's going to be fine. It's just, will he be able to guard anybody? I think that's my biggest concern.
Looks like Kevin Durant is doing pretty good on the next level with his skinny frame.
Do not compare him to.
He couldn't put up 225 on the bench at the combine. Like, that guy was frail. Oh, he has some KD skills in him. I mean, the shots unblockable. It's smooth. He can pull up off the dribble.
Did you just say he has KD skills in him?
He does. He has some KD skills, and with his length and his ability to kind of react on whatever the offense is doing and affect shots. I think that he's even a better, interior defender. And we saw how good KD has been for the Warriors. I'm not saying he's KD Jr., but he has some KD-like skill, like being 7'1", being able to be so fluent off the dribble. There's very few people that I can compare that to. Now, we're talking about the guard holes. They do have 2 really, really, really good players coming in Hunter Sallis, who I think is going to be a first-round draft pick, and Nolan Hickman, who should be your versatile guard at the bench. And, he plays well enough. I could see him maybe taking that starting spot, but from Hunter Sallis. But now he's got a swag. He's 6'5". In high school, he averaged 22, 6 rebounds, almost 4 assists, 2.4 steals, and shot like 58%. Nebraska Player of the Year. An efficient player, can really heat up quick, and I see him kind of being in similar situations as Jalen Suggs, getting the ball maybe towards the end of the game, or maybe in that pick and roll situation. I don't think he's as good as Jalen Suggs by any means, but I think he can help fill that role. You got a completely new nucleus coming in,
Okay.
and chemistry is always a thing. And then Nolan Hickman. Nolan Hickman, a 6'2", 175. He'll compete for minutes with Hunter. 16 points a game in high school. McDonald's All-American. And then coming back, we touched on him a little bit earlier, but Andrew Nebhart is going to be one of the best, to me, one of the best 6-man bench players in the entire college basketball. I really like him. Plus, transfer, Rasir Bolton. This guy will start. The last time we saw him against Baylor and the team that they lost to in the championship game, he had 28 and 6. So I don't know if that was one of the reasons why they wanted to bring him in. Iowa State, for some reason, they've just been really good at getting guards and producing guards. And they got one sniped from them, as we've seen the transfer portal kind of take over. We mentioned Texas getting a lot of transfers coming in, and the rules have changed. But Rasir Bolton, a senior, a leader, an older veteran presence, I think that he'll help fill that role. And so they'll kind of do it by committee. Nobody's going to fill in Jalen Suggs' role, or even Corey Kispert, who had guard skills as well. That's what I think about the guard position. As far as what I see as a weakness, and in the starting lineup here, I have Anton Watson pictured. I actually don't see him starting. I see him kind of playing starters minutes. Julian Strawther will take a big step up this year as far as competing for that starting position. He has the pedigree as far as he's been there for a while. He's got the size at 6'7". But Watson did start 17 games last year. I think that he could play a little bit a small 5 to give Drew Timme a blow. As well as now we're talking about forwards and bigs. I like this freshman Caden Perry. I think he's just got really good size, and I think he can play alongside Chet Holmgren pretty well, and even Timme, because Timme, he's almost an offense in himself. He gets the ball, and he just has so many moves. So that's what I'm looking at. What do you think about their starting lineup? And yeah, the guards, I can hear you. I hear you with your question marks, but I think that maybe the Kispert spot might be the position that is the most concerning to try to replace.
Yeah, I think, to me, when looking at the starting lineup, I think Andrew Nebhart will start at that guard position, but who's going to start at that second guard position, right? So I think that is going to be because really there's 5 guys, like you mentioned. There's 5 talented wings in that mix. You have Harris, you're going to have Strawther, you're going to have these 2 freshman kids. And the thing about Hunter that I'm talking about is that, he's a big guard, right? So 6'5", 175. He's a kind of a combo guard. Would you agree with that? Like, he's around 6'4".
He's tall, but he's not like big, so to speak. Like Nolan Hickman, he's not 6'5", he's only 6'2", but he's a bit, like, he seems like a bigger kid to me, and he's older.
Okay, well, yeah, well, to me, like, I think it's really going to come down to who can play that role. Like, if Hunter can really do that, I just don't see him being a lead guard. Like, I think he's going to take some time here. He has really good IQ and passing ability when you watch him. I like that about him. But to me, if Nolan Hickman can come in and kind of lead that offense, I think that would help this team. So, like, I think that he's more of a truer point guard, if that makes sense. He creates for others, finds the guys, strong ball and defender. But to your credit, I think you made a rare good point. I do think that small forward / power forward position is it a little tougher? I feel like they're really crowded at that power forward and center position. They're very crowded at the 2, but they don't really have that true 3-and-1. You know what I mean? Like, they're very combo-ish. So that's going to be Mark Few's job, is to fill that role. And that's why I think that Texas game early, those games that we mentioned, are going to be big. It's like, how does he plug and play these guys? And how does this go, especially for that? Now, can Chet just be that guy that, hey, he's just legitimate? You just call him freaking Kevin Durant. But if he can, and he can kind of limit those deficiencies, then that's good. So are they going to be just an inside-out team and just go from there?
So with that, the struggle at your, I guess your natural small forward position, I see them throwing out a lot of 3-guard lineups, which you see these days with a couple bigs, and then if you're pairing 2 bigs, I think that Chet has the versatility to play the small forward position, and I don't think he's getting busted on the other end. If anything, he's going to be a help defender nightmare for other teams. The way that he affects the paint is going to be similar to what we saw with Evan Mobley. Maybe not to the as high degree, because I think USC was a top 5 defensive team last year, and the year before he came in, they weren't even on the radar. But I think that he's going to affect that many shots. He has the ability to get out on the perimeter and block threes. And even if he's not going to block the shot at the paint, which I've seen him go heads up with so many players at the rim and stuff them, he can affect them by missing. So that's why I think that he is versatile. I'm not calling him Kevin Durant, but he has Kevin Durant type skills. He just does. He just has some of this stuff in his bag. So I really like the potential for this team. Before we talk about our predictions, we'll talk a little bit about the head coach, Mark Few, who has an 83.4 winning percentage, and I'm sure that tops college basketball. And he's got 632 wins, 134 losses, and hey, he only lost 1 game and was in the national championship game, and he has cut down the nets before.
Yeah, I like Mark Few. I think that he's been a good coach for what he's done. And when you look at he's been dominant, right? So he's had 22 seasons, so they've won 20 regular or shared 20 regular season league titles in 22 years. That's phenomenal. 17 conference championships. They won or shared 11 straight West Coast Conference regular season titles. I think
he cut down the nets, but I meant Final Four. He hasn't won a championship yet.
That's what's missing. That's the big one, right? Like, does that matter for him? I think it does. He's got to win a national title. That's a legacy thing, and he's got to do that. Now, can he do that with the teams that he's had? I thought last year may have been his best shot, but they ran into a Baylor squad like we talked about, and so he's got to finish the deal. And I think that's one thing about him. Like, hey, you got to take it. You can win in the WCC, and that's the thing. Like, Gonzaga's had opportunities to get out of that conference, but they don't. Like, they've had opportunities to go to Mountain West Conference and other conferences that are a little higher up in basketball terms, but they won't leave that conference. So that's a Few thing. Like, don't tell me it's not. He has that much power. If he wanted to move that conference to somewhere else and try to go somewhere else on the West Coast, he could. He could have went there just for basketball. And so,
well, why mess up something good? If I'm winning every year, they lost 2 games the year before last, like 1 last year,
but have they won a championship?
Yeah, maybe that's the missing piece. Maybe they're not getting battle tested enough outside of St. Mary's through the regular season.
And even St. Mary's, like, come on, like, St. Mary's is okay. Like, they have their teams, but like, I know this because I'm out here. Like, you're playing Santa Clara, which I love Santa Clara's campus. So don't come after me, Santa Clara people. You're playing all San Francisco. Like, these teams are not up to Gonzaga standards. Now, just because you built it, you can have it. I mean, listen to the guys that he has, like Sabonis, Kelly Olynyk, Zach Collins, Rui, your guy, Brandon Clark, Jalen Suggs. Then if you even go back in the day, you have Adam Morrison, Jeremy Pargo, Austin Day, Rob Sackley, Roddy Turioff. Like, he's coached legit players.
Dan Dickow.
Yeah,
Kevin Pangos. Austin Day.
To me, like, why can't he be like that guy that actually won a championship? He's got to do that. That's his legacy thing. I like Few. I think that his system works, and I think he's done a good job with his system. He's one of the smartest coaches I've listened to for the short time I got to listen to him. And he does know what he's doing. It's just he's got to win a championship, and that's the legitimate thing.
Well, and he will be suspended for the beginning part of the season, as he had a DUI. That would be kind of bad time, and the season is right around the corner. But he's a human being, just like all of us, and we've made a mistake or two. Just hope that he owns up for it. They get over it, and hopefully that doesn't affect anything as far as the regular season is concerned. But all eyes will be on Chet versus Paolo in Vegas, as they will match up the number 1 versus number 2 player in the nation. And who knows, the performances in that game might determine the top 3 draft picks, as they're ranked 1 and 2, and they're going to go heads up. And they have gone heads up before at camps, and What I like about both of them is they're very competitive. They accept that bump. They're ready for those challenges. So I really think that that game in particular is something that you want to have your eyes on. And then, of course, the NCAA tournament, being back again, will have a big forecast on what we see at the top 5 of that NBA draft. Now, predictions. What do you got, Coach? I'm going to let you lead. What do you think that Gonzaga basketball, how will it end? And is it the same story again?
I think it's a Final Four team with a chance to hoist the title, but it's really going to come back to that, like we've been talking about, that backcourt play. If he can figure out a way to get those guards involved and do that, I'm just going to say Final Four, and I don't think he wins the title.
Okay.
I know you're going to pick it because Kevin Durant plays for the team, so I just wanted to make sure I was the nice voice out there.
So don't get me wrong. To me, this is a top 4 team in the nation. I see them as a Final Four participant as well, depending on how their bracket pans out. I got a couple teams that I think that, one, aren't the great matchups, but also they have a little bit of the edge for the reasons that we mentioned, maybe guard play in that small forward position, and that is Michigan, who I really like. They got a veteran backcourt. They got Hunter Dickinson that is in the post. Diabate, who's a freshman coming in. And I like Jawan Howard. I really like Jawan Howard. I feel like in the next 5 years, Michigan's going to cut down the net somehow so he can go to the NBA and coach there. But I think UCLA, a team that they just beat at the buzzer, is got vengeance on their mind. So I look for those two teams as not being great matchups, but anything can happen in the NCAA tournament. And I would not be surprised if Chet Holmgren, who all he does is win, whether it's on the USA level, whether it's in high school, whether it's AU, he could be the difference. I think they might be a Jalen Suggs away from that. Yeah. So we both pegged them as Final Four teams. Of course, these are predictions. We haven't seen them actually play together, and chemistry plays a huge role. And you might have the most talented team. You have Zion and RJ Barrett and Cam Reddish. Sometimes it's not enough. The pieces have to go together. But my guy that I think that we're looking at here, I think Nolan and Hunter Sallis really have an opportunity to break out as Jalen Suggs is no longer there. And so we'll see what happens. But that's our take here on Gonzaga basketball. Look forward to our other college basketball previews. Coach Kev?
Yeah, again, Gonzaga, we'll see how you do. You got to get that ring, Mark Few, so good luck.
Absolutely. So, again, looking for UCLA, Duke rematches, as well as Alabama on the forecast, and Texas.